Barkov between the legs, unbelievable! Patrick Court was for Hoover, the backhander, yes sir! Hooby-dooby-doo!
Hello and welcome back to Straight to the Sunrise Panthers Nation podcast. I am your host, Max Rive, and I'm very happy to kick off this episode. Starting off by saying we are at our mid-season point. Believe it or not, 42 games played. Panthers wrapping up their first really long road trip they've had here and there, but they went out to Canada and to take on a couple of teams. Right now, when I'm recording this, they are taking on the Winnipeg Jets. So hopefully wrapping up the road trip with a big win in Winnipeg. What better way to talk about the midseason review and take a look than welcoming on the show for a special guest for the first time, David Dwork. Some of you may be familiar with David through Twitter and what he really does for the Panthers. And he does all things media and interviews with different Florida players, staff, and he'll tell you all about that when we get into the Q&A. But like I said, we'll have a fun little Q&A, and as well as talking about who's done well, who's exceeded expectations for the Panthers this season, who's been really bringing it, and who's not kind of living up to what we thought at the beginning of the season, or not so much living up, but just kind of disappointing at the moment. But the Panthers really are bringing it. Tied for first in the NHL with their interstate rivals, the Tampa Bay Lightning, as well as the Colorado Avalanche, who all three have 61 points, sitting at the top of the NHL, like I said. So incredible things for the Florida Panthers this season. And without further ado, welcoming on to the show, David Dwork. Hey, David, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on, Max?
Not too much. Thanks for joining me here. I appreciate you coming on short notice. Got in touch with you the other day, but appreciate you making something work with me here.
Nah, dude, it's all good, man. I've been in your shoes, so I always just try to accommodate and pay it forward, and it's all good, man. I'm happy to do it.
No, I love that, and love you being able to help me out like that. I appreciate it greatly.
No, anytime, brother. Seriously, it's all good.
Awesome. Yeah, so just kind of today, just want to kind of get to know you. I've seen you on Twitter here and there, just what you do for the Panthers. But for the people that don't know, maybe just start off by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up.
Well, my name is David Dwork. I'm born and raised in South Florida. Been playing hockey most of my life. Played a few years of U.S. juniors when I was younger. And going to school, I was always into broadcasting, journalism classes, and that kind of guided me once my brief attempt at a hockey career ended. And that's kind of what happened when I moved back home. Yeah, because I moved up north for a few years when I was playing hockey. I was in Michigan for a season, for part of a season. I was in New Hampshire for a season, and I was in New Jersey for a season. Then I moved back home, and I went back to broadcasting school. I started working in radio stations. I interned with the Miami Heat before working at the two major local radio stations, 560 and 790, covering all sports. And then I started writing. I started writing for a TV station down here, writing for them, and eventually switched up to Channel 10, which is where I am now, WPLG. And it's been great because they've been fortunate enough to kind of let me kind of follow my passion. As much as I've really gotten into journalism as an adult, hockey and specifically the Panthers were always a big part of my life. Being from down here and being, kind of a hockey living in South Florida. So it's been really cool that I've been able to cover the Panthers beat for the last 3 seasons. And it's been awesome. I like to think that I have an interesting perspective just because, I played the game and I grew up down, with the fans down here and following the team so closely. So, I hope that, the passion and dedication and just love for what I'm doing kind of shines through on the other end of it to where people are reading my work and tweets and all that good stuff. But yeah, I hope that was a good summary of of getting to know me there.
No,
Not used to
that's
answering that
awesome.
question.
No, that's absolutely awesome. I love to hear. Like myself, I'm still a young teenager, 16 years old, but um, as a hockey player myself, as an athlete, and now kind of my hockey career is kind of coming to a settle, but just wanting to move forward and uh, with hockey, but not playing hockey, and getting into broadcasting and podcast, and just really getting into that media networking like kind of atmosphere, and just kind of widening my horizons a little bit from playing the game, and now just moving on to doing other things around the game. And my favorite team, the Florida Panthers, I love them since I've been about 3 years old. So it's really great to hear from someone else, and now that is where they want to be, and even taking steps forward too now. What like really led you down this path of becoming radio networking and media networking and all that stuff there?
I think it was just like when I came home from playing hockey, I really had like no plan for what to do with my adult life. Like I finished high school, I left my senior year, and I moved up north and just kind of started playing hockey. Trying out on teams, and eventually catching on and going forward in that way. But when I came home, I really had no idea what I was going to do as a grown up, and credit to my dad for kind of lighting a fire under me and just kind of making sure that I had some kind of plan in place. So I just kind of fell back on what I did when I was in high school and middle school and elementary school. And from like fourth grade on, I had always been doing like the morning news at each school that I went to. I was always in the TV production program. My high school was a magnet school that had a TV production, so I was in that program. And so I just kind of fell back onto those roots when I moved back home. A guy that I played hockey with down here in South Florida worked for the Miami Heat, and we got to talking in the locker room, and he set me up with an interview for an internship with the Miami Heat broadcast team, which I got, and I worked with them for a full season. It happened to be the season that the Heat were terrible in 2008, 2009, I believe it was, when they won like 15 games, and they traded Shaq that year, and it was pretty crazy year to be around the Heat. But I got to be hands-on with the broadcast crew, with Eric Reed and Tony Fiorentino, and Ted Ballard, the director, and all the really awesome people that work on that broadcast now at Bally's, what used to be Sun Sports. But so many of the same people. You see them at the Panther games too. But yeah, that's basically, I interned with the Heat. That got my juices flowing. Then I started, again, through an acquaintance of my dad, got an interview for an internship at 790 The Ticket, turned that into a job, gradually just kind of worked my way up. I always had the attitude, I don't want to ever say no. If somebody asked me, can you do this? Can you do that? So I was board opping, I was hosting, I was doing updates, I was covering every team down here, going to practices and games wherever they sent me, whether it was Marlins, Hurricanes, Panthers, Dolphins, just whatever it was. And just I guess that it's easy to have that like work ethic where you're going to do whatever you need to do, and because you love what you're doing, so there's no real like stress or negativity attached to it. You're just whether you're working 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day or whatever, you're still doing stuff that you like. So that just kind of evolved, and working in radio, you meet a lot of people, and you kind of start figuring out more and more what you want to do. I got into writing. I started a blog. I ended up on SB Nation covering the Heat from there, and there was never really like a set plan, as much as I just kind of try to keep moving forward, and feel like the older I got, the more I realized that doing something you love for a living, because we all have to have jobs as adults, right? We all have to earn money. We all have responsibilities and supporting, whether it's family or ourselves or whatever. When you become an adult, you've got to work. And the older I got, the more I realized how valuable, how amazing it is to be able to do something that you truly love to do for a living. Because so many people, unfortunately, don't have that luxury where they have to just do whatever they have to do for their job. So that kind of appreciation only helped kind of drive me more to stay in this and to work harder and to just try to make something of it. And then, like I said before, I was just lucky that when I started working with WPLG Channel 10, They just kind of said, you have a passion for covering hockey. We don't have anybody doing that, so go follow your passion. And it's been really awesome ever since. So yeah, I guess, the moral of my story is just to try to find something you love to do and do it as much as you can. And I've been very blessed. Live a very fortunate life. I'm very lucky. There's so much about my life that I love. I can't necessarily say I deserve it or know what I did to deserve this life, but I am grateful for it every single day. And I think that the key is just, find something you love to do and try to do it as much as you can.
What are three things that, like, if you're at an amateur level, like myself, I'm still trying to get my feet wet. I'm still in high school. What do I want to do? I've got this podcast running. What do I want to do? Well, what's three steps in that amateur field? What are three things that pieces of advice that you would give to someone at that level? And what is three pieces of advice that you would give to someone trying to get to that next level, trying to, like I said, widen their horizons, and trying to make it a full-time thing?
I mean, number one, I would always say is to just relationships. Even at, being in high school, you're getting into this now. You're doing the podcast. You're reaching out to people just like you did with me. Make those connections and build on them. Fair or not, I just going back to my first internship with the Miami Heat. Every single job, whether it's an internship or a full-time job or some side work. Everything that I've gotten has been through some kind of relationship. And, as crazy as it sounds, it is totally about who you know. It's such a big part of it. So I would say just work on those relationships, build those relationships. That's key. I mean, the other thing, I'm just going to kind of fall back on what I was just saying is, if you're doing something that you're passionate about and you can go gung ho, just go. Don't let yourself be limited. A lot of times, I guess, we've got a lot of stuff going on in our lives, and that's why it's so easy to push hard when you're doing something that you really love and enjoy. So I mean, I guess that's an easy one, but it's, just kind of falling back on my personal experience. It's been a big part of it. For a third thing, let me think. I like this, Max. I'm not used to being on this side of the question. So this is it's a cool experience.
I know you got your own show there, chirping the cats, but it's a cool being on the other side of things for sure.
Yeah, so I would say number three is don't let yourself get too discouraged. Like, nothing is ever going to come easy, especially in this industry. It's super competitive. There's a million people that are trying to get in. So don't get discouraged if, people turn you down or you don't hear from people, or, if you believe in what you're doing and you believe in your abilities, I think that's a big leg up on a lot. If you can just kind of have that self-belief. And I just had another one that now it's gone, but I'm sure it'll pop back in my head. Oh man. Yeah. Silence on a podcast, never a good thing when I'm trying to think, but if I get it back, I'll throw it out there. But I mean, yeah, I guess it's just there's no like set playbook, right? Like there's no like instruction manual that really tells you how to make it in this industry, because there's so many different avenues, so many different ways, and so many different mediums now. I mean, there's writing, there's podcasting, there's YouTube, TV. It's everything now. So yeah, I mean, it's not easy. Like, unfortunately, it's not an easy thing. So not getting discouraged, I think, is big, because if you really believe in what you're doing, you just got to keep going forward. Yeah.
In terms of schooling wise, what does it look like to, like, what did you go through schooling wise or course wise to get where you are now?
Yeah, I think I kind of like backdoored it in that regard, because I never, like I said, I left high school my senior year. I ended up getting my GED, but I never actually got to walk and graduate. And that was really the last schooling I got. I did, when I moved back from playing hockey, I did go to Connecticut School of Broadcasting, which was like a 6-month program. And I did that right as I was getting into my Miami Heat internship. So I remember just doing it. And it was like the easiest, best schooling of my life, because and just kind of falling back on when you're doing something you love. Like I think of every course or every lesson I did during those 6 months, I think I got a perfect score in everything but one thing, where I got like one thing wrong. Like it was, and anybody that knows me or went to school with me knows, like, I was the guy falling asleep in history class, or like a great student at all. But yeah, I mean, like for me, like a lot of people in the industry, like you talk to a lot of guys, they go to great schools, obviously Syracuse, you hear a lot of Syracuse alums out there, people that programs. I mean, I know here in Florida, there's a great one at University of Florida. But that's the thing, is like, there's, like I was just saying, there's no, right instructional way to do this. Like I just started, again, it goes hand in hand with knowing the right people, but I just, as soon as I started getting doors opened or cracked for me, I just kept pushing and kept hustling as best I could. And, taking every internship. And like I said, always having that attitude of whatever somebody asked me to do something, I just want to say yes. Like the first time I ever got to cover a Panther game, I was sitting in the bullpen of the radio station that I was working at, 790, and I overheard people talking in another cubicle about how they were for whatever reason, they had nobody to cover the Panther game that night. And I just kind of chimed in, hey, I can do it. I know the arena, let me go do it. And that was the start of me covering Panther games. And through covering Panther games, I was like, oh, well, now they can send me to go cover Dolphin games and cover Canes practices. And it just kind of goes from there. So it's just kind of, having that, not necessarily like, you don't want to be like eavesdropping or, sticking your nose where you don't belong per se, but you got to kind of find that happy medium of always making yourself available and just being willing to do whatever it takes. And, I feel like, for me, like it's been going on, what is it, 2022 now. So going on like 14 years that I've been trying to do this career. And I'm just now like feeling like I'm really getting established to where I really want to be. And I'm, still far away from the mountaintop. But like I've always said to like my wife, is like, as long as I feel like I'm moving forward, as long as I feel like there's progress and I'm not like stuck in a rut or standing still, like that's kind of like my my indicator for me that things are going, and that, they're still going, as long as I always feel like there's progress being made. But, I hope I'm answering your question. It's just, it's a funky industry, man. That's what makes it so great, because it's great. It's fun. It's awesome. There's some, pretty amazing experiences. But you got to be willing to work for it. Like nothing's ever going to get handed to you. Right.
No, for sure. And like right now, I'm still young, trying to see doing my research, what's there, what options are there. And even just over the course of the last 6 months, when I started this back up in August, just different doors and courses opening up for me already, just seeing what's there. And it even started back when I was playing hockey. I used to run my team's Instagram account, just doing that little step. And then I started talking a ton about the Panthers, like diehard Panthers fan, always to my cousin. He was really the one that kind of said, you should put this into a podcast. And I said, you know what, that's a good idea. So then I took the time to get going with that. Had a couple episodes out. I didn't think it was going to take off as much as it did at first, just kind of locally with my friends. And then little did I know, Ryan Lomberg got back to me, got him on for an episode. And
Nice.
then weeks later, got a email back after I was contacting with Jameson Olive, got Katie Gauze on. And literally just finished up this afternoon with Jessica Blaylock, newest episode out. And just everything was opening up. Connections just through Mackenzie Uyghur being my cousin as well. But not even so, haven't had him on yet. Hopefully getting him on sometime soon. Been in contact with him a little bit, but just seeing the doors open up here, open up there, and just kind of paving my own pathway. He's still young, and just kind of seeing and hearing what you had to say there, and that advice is really like, I love hearing it from, if it was from Katie or from Jessica or from yourself. I love hearing that advice, especially as someone as young as myself trying to get into that next step into that industry.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you got the right idea. You're reaching out to people. You're kind of seeing that when you hustle on your end. Like, I think people in this field, this industry, like hustle recognizes hustle, right? And so many of us have had to work so hard to get there. And I mean, you talk about like, I mean, you just mentioned like Jess Blaylock, who's like one of the absolute hardest working and nicest people that I've had to interact with down here in South Florida. And there's just so many more of just, nice people. And I mean, you've seen it, you've reached out to people and they've come on your podcast already. It's a good thing. And I mean, obviously you care about it. I can hear it in your voice. I can hear it in your questions. So, I'm, like I said, I'm happy to be talking to you and helping you. And it sounds great. Like, I'm intrigued to see how your path takes you.
No,
Like you've got me invested now, Max.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. I'm glad you're able to jump on once again and help me out here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, for sure. Are you in South Florida or where
No,
are you at?
I'm actually a Canadian. I'm in Ontario, believe it or not.
I believe you're Canadian because I could hear it in your
my
voice, in your
voice.
accent. But
Yeah,
you never know because down here in South Florida, there's a lot of accents. So
yeah,
so you're in Ontario, okay? So
yeah,
does that
yeah.
mean, but you didn't grow up a Leafs fan, or you didn't grow up a Sens fan?
No,
You grew up a
no,
Panther fan?
definitely not. My story is actually quite funny. I've had it on previous episodes, but it started off as the old Panther logo. I had it on a blanket of mine when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and that was like my all-time favorite thing ever was the logo.
Nice.
And then from there, like once I kind of got older, I got a hat, I got a toque, I got a shirt. And then once Mackenzie got drafted there in 2013, that kind of just sealed the deal for me. And I've been following them ever since. And just kind of that passion for them has grown ever since. So no, not a Leafs fan though. Complete opposite actually. But
That's cool though that like the team that you like, from when you were a kid, all of a sudden, you got this crazy connection of a family member who's like made it up to the top of the chain really in the NHL, and he just happens to play for this team that you kind of like. And I don't know, it's a pretty cool connection, right? It seems like the kind of thing that was like pre-written. I think that's pretty neat.
yeah, no, it's awesome, and it's the funny story too. It's the night of the draft. It was he was seventh round. He was a bit of a draft steal there,
Oh yeah.
and seventh round. So I was like, yeah, he's not going. Like I'm going to bed. Like I was still pretty young at the time. So like, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. Like whatever. I wake up the next morning. My parents had set my iPod lock screen to him and his draft jersey and his hat. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, no, it was pretty incredible to see him go there. Even like it was my favorite team, so it made it even more special.
Have you been to a game down here yet?
Not down there, no, unfortunately, but hopefully sometime soon I can get out to one. I've been to Toronto, Montreal, Buffalo, Ottawa a couple of times.
Yeah.
It was actually kind of funny because a couple of years ago, 2018, when I was down in Ottawa for a game with my school, actually, I think I may have been the only person in the building with a Panther jersey on. And they actually I'm not sure who it was, but they actually got a snap of me and Mackenzie and got posted onto the Panthers story. So that was a pretty cool memory as well.
That's awesome.
That I had. So just kind of over the years, it's grown my passion for the team, and it's so nice to see them doing well and trending in the right direction now. So
Yeah,
all
it's a
right.
long time coming.
Yeah, no, it's fingers crossed. We're making it seems like we're trending in the right direction, and we're keeping with our winning ways. So it's good to see.
Yes, sir.
So next question here. What about the job it makes it so special? Like opposed to some other like 9 to 5 job. Like what makes it so special among the rest?
I mean, so many things. It's if you grow up any kind of a sports fan, and then suddenly you get to kind of cross the line, you get to cross the fourth wall or whatever, and you get to go into that world. I mean, you just think about like getting obviously pre-COVID, but like being able to just go into locker rooms and interact and see how these guys that you've been, looking up to, or that you've been, and for some of us who play the sport, try to do what they do. just getting to see how it works at that level, how much it takes for these guys to be good on a day-to-day basis, to play at the highest level, and try to do it consistently, which is so hard. It's such a cool experience to see that, and to I don't know, you just kind of get into a perspective that most people don't get. Whether it's interacting with other people and learning new things, and getting exposed to different ideas and perspectives, and it's just, I don't know if a good incubator is the right term to use, but there's just so many ways that you can kind of just keep getting better in that. But I mean, going to games, reporting on games, seeing things, learning on the fly, really. And one of the things that I love about the job is trying to learn. Like whenever we're at practices or at skates, I'm always trying to pay attention to the drills and really try to get an idea of what's being taught. Because you speak to players and you speak to coaches, but they're not going to reveal any of their strategies or their systems. You're kind of stuck to figure it out on your own, right? And I just love being able to learn those kind of things. And you feel like even now, as I'm almost 39 years old, I'm still learning more and more about the sport. But yeah, I mean, there's really not much that isn't amazing about getting to do this. I mean, the hours can be a little crazy. Something that I have not done yet, but I've spoken to a few people about, is traveling on a day-to-day basis with the team. I have not, because of COVID and everything, I haven't really had much of an opportunity. Now that I am covering the team all the time, with Zooms and everything, that's pretty easy to cover them just from home, essentially. But the schedule, that can probably be a bit tedious to travel. I know a lot of guys are, it's not the best part, but at the same time, like, the travel that I have gotten to do, like right before the break, I got to go out to like Vegas and Arizona. I've seen the team up in the Northeast a lot. That's really cool to be able to see different cities, different buildings. I love going to different, like, I take stadium and arena tours and stuff like that, and that kind of nerdy stuff. I just absolutely love it. But I mean, yeah, just trying to think about your question. Like, really everything. Like, there's nothing that I don't like about this job. Like, from dealing with the athletes, to dealing with the media, to dealing with the press people for the team. There's just that you get exposed to, and for me, like, the more good people I surround myself with, the better. Like, and that's kind of the beauty of this, is that there's just whether it's the guys playing or the guys that you're dealing with working, it's just so many good people. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's a cop-out answer, but really there's nothing that I don't really like about this. I mean, from the day-to-day stuff, from the satisfaction of posting a good article or a good podcast, I mean, there's just so much to like about it.
No, absolutely. And it touches back to what you said about going to work and actually liking your job. And there's so many jobs and people out there that may not like what they're doing, or are not satisfied with what they're doing, but really going to work and not treating it as work so much, but just really loving what you're doing, and still a work environment, but just like you're not like dragging the days 9 to 5, or right, counting the clock, counting the hours, just going in and doing what you love. And I think that's the most important thing. And that's kind of what I'm chasing here, and what I'm trying to get into, is that like, this is what I love, this is my passion, and following that. And like you said, there's nothing to complain about about what you're in, and about the job.
Yeah, and like, I'm just kind of going through it in my head a minute, like, in terms of appreciating it. Like, I feel like I got a wake up call around right between when I switched television stations from Channel 4 to Channel 10. There was like a 2 or 3 month period where I was kind of in between, and in that time, I needed to find some kind of job to make a stable living. I have a wife. We our son was in the picture. Yeah. You got a house, you got a mortgage, you got bills you got to pay. So I had to find a job that I could do in the meantime. So I had a friend of mine got me a job with this sales company, and it was, like I said, it was just a couple of months, but dude, I was miserable. I hated it. And just waking up early and having to put on, like, nice, dressy clothes, and go to some office and sit in some cubicle and calling people who didn't have any interest in hearing my voice on the other end of the phone. Dude, that was those couple of months that I did that job, I feel like may have been the best thing in terms of having such a big appreciation for what I do now every day. And this is going back, like 20, I guess if it was before I worked at the TV station, the first TV station. Yeah, it was before I worked at my first TV station. It wasn't between them. It was before I got my job at Channel 4. So that was like 2014. So, we're going back a ways, but like it's just so pertinent in my mind. Just as like anytime I think about that sales job, it's like, holy shit. Oh, sorry, I'm bleep. Put a dollar in the square jar. But yeah, it's just like, wow, comparing that to what I get to do on a day-to-day now, it doesn't even. So like anytime that I feel any kind of anything but dedication and like going 110% towards this, what I'm doing now, I just called back to that sales job. And it's like, oh my God, I never, ever, ever want to have that feeling again, where I'm like waking up every day, just dreading it. Cause I know I'm not going to enjoy the next 10 hours. It's so, I mean, that's one thing that definitely lit a fire under me.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's the most important thing. Not dreading what you're doing every day and making yourself miserable, and like that's no fun. It's not how you want to do things. Unfortunately, there's some jobs that some people that dread what they've been doing or whatnot, or even just part-time jobs, as some friends that I know just, why do I have to go into work, this, that, but do something you love. And it's crucial to do something you love. Kind of leading into that, what does a typical day in the workplace look like for yourself?
Well, I mean, we'll do like because yeah, every day can be different depending on, if it's practice day or a game day or things like that. But I mean, a typical game day, let's say a typical home game day, the morning skate's going to be 10 a.m. So you get to the rink, I like to get to the rink, 20, 30 minutes early, just because you never know who might pop on the ice or what you might see. Or, there's a lot of times where I've just sat in the FLA Live Arena and I'm the first one there. And it's literally just me sitting there in this massive empty arena with, 15,000 empty seats, no Zamboni on the ice, just silent. It's kind of a cool thing. I always kind of take a moment and I'm just like, yeah, this is pretty neat. But yeah, I mean, you do your morning skates. If you want to, you speak to the players and the coach afterwards. If you want to put out, if there's anything to write about, obviously it's easy to just pop out a quick story. Otherwise, you just kind of hang out until you go to the rink for the game. If the game is at 7, you try to get there like between 5:30 and 6. You do your morning skate, you jot down the lines, any notes you might have. And it's just kind of, for me, like, it's just paying attention as much as I can. I take notes every game. I don't necessarily use them all the time, but it's always nice to kind of go back and just see how certain guys were doing, in my opinion, see what the lines look like. I always have that to fall back on. And then, yeah, like, after the game, it's the same as after the skate. You do your interviews with the coach and with whichever players are available, because now we don't have open locker rooms anymore. And yeah, I mean, whether you're going to write a game, you're going to write a podcast script, whatever it is, like you just kind of work all that as the night goes on. I mean, for me, like, days are very different because, like, in addition to covering the Panthers, I'm also working for my station, writing news stories and covering our web desk, which is, like our website. So there's also, a lot of hours of the week that I'm just kind of sitting right now, since COVID, working from home, but just, keeping up with what our reporters are doing, writing stories in that regard. Because again, as much as I love, and I've said it a million times already, as much as I love what I'm doing, part of what allows me to do it is all the work that I have to put in for my station when I'm not covering hockey. Ideally, someday, the goal is to just cover hockey or, a sport or whatever. But ultimately, a bad day at work is still sitting in front of my desk, writing stories, doing stuff that I enjoy doing. So, I mean, there's no such thing as a bad day, but I just kind of, in terms of, typical days for me, they're, I'm 5 out of the 7 days, I'm spending like 7 to 8 hours covering our website, writing stories, in addition to any hockey stuff that's going on. If it's a game day, a practice day, I'm getting out to games and practices as well. So I'm probably putting in 60 to 70 hours of work in a given week on average, some more. But kind of getting back to the first point that I made, like it never feels like it. Like I never feel like I'm like getting weighed down by all these hours that I'm putting in, whether it's, hockey or news or whatever. Cause it just kind of, we keep circling back, but at the end of the day, it's just good stuff. And, like I was just saying, like I always remind myself of that one job that I hated that always keeps me in perspective. So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of flexible, fluid work in terms of like my day-to-day schedule. But, at the end of the day, it's all good, right?
Yeah,
I'm still
no, for
smiling.
sure. For sure. All right, one more fun question before we kind of get into more kind of approaching the midseason and just kind of review some of the players and your takes on how some of the different guys have been contributing this season. But yeah, final question: Who on the squad is your favorite to interview with?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I have to say right now, one of my favorite guys to talk to is actually somebody that you talked to on your podcast, and that's Ryan Lomberg. He's just he's a very down to earth guy that really seems to appreciate where he is and how far he's come, which I guess kind of goes hand in hand with our whole conversation here. But he's just he's become one of my favorite guys to talk to, and also Anthony Duclair has become one of my like really favorite guys to hear from, because whether it's hockey or whether it's off ice stuff, he seems to put a lot of thought into what he says. It's very passionate. So it's fun talking to Duke. And just kind of overall, and then when I think of like favorite guys over the years, I always kind of go back to Keith Yandel. Like he's in Philly now. He's not here anymore, but back when locker rooms were open and you can just kind of like meander around and shoot the shit with the different players, I always found myself kind of around his locker with all the defensemen and just kind of hearing what the making fun of each other, ribbing each other. Anytime he needed like a good quote or some maybe a good idea of guys to talk to, he was always just somebody who was just so happy to help. And I always wish that you get more access to the goaltenders, just because I'm a goalie, so anytime you can just kind of like chat with guys about their gear or whatever, it's always fun to do. Obviously now with the Zooms and everything, that's not really happening, but like just thinking back to the locker rooms over the years, like I remember like standing around one day and just talking with James Reimer about like glove lacings and breaking in pads. And like back there was one point where like Antti Niemi was briefly on the Panthers, and I remember just sitting around and like talking with him about his career. And those are the fun memories that come from talking to guys in the locker room.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like just Ryan Lomberg, like you were saying, great guy. Had him on. Really nice guy. Conducts himself really well. And just gave me a great interview. Lots to talk about. And just kind of moving into kind of our next topic, we can start off with the big Lamborghini. What's your? He's been having a great season. He's really been bringing his game night in, night out, playing in and out of the lineup whenever we need him. 9 points on the season as well. I think that's a career high for him, but he's just been bringing that like he did last year again, but even more so this year. What's your midseason take on the Lamborghini?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, like he brings a very specific game to the table. Like he's got a ton of speed, but he's also tough as hell. And there's a lot of skill there. He's got some good hands. He's got a deceptive shot. I think the difference this year from last year is just you're seeing it on not even a game to game basis, but on a shift to shift basis. Like he's really put in the work to bring that Lomberg element consistently. And I think that's why he's gotten so much more time on the ice this year. I think that's why he played so many consecutive games. That fourth line that he's been on with Eetu Luosterainen and up until recently Patrick Hornquist, for the few weeks that they were together, have been probably the most consistent line, just not necessarily in terms of production, but in terms of bringing the same effort, the same tenacity, shift in and shift out. I mean, this is a fourth line that was, if you look at their possession numbers, It's just off the charts, which is crazy to think about for a fourth line. But that's, the best teams. They always have these third and fourth lines that are just such a pain in the ass. I mean, just thinking about Tampa in recent years with their bottom six and how much production they've gotten out of it. But yeah, I mean, it just being that he's such a good guy, it's been that much better. It's been that much more fun to really watch the way that his season has grown. And with so many of the Panthers, like I always kind of take it back to all these guys that Bill Zito brought in over the last few years, whether it's Lombard or Duclair or either of the Sams, the defenseman Gus Forsling. I mean, so many of these guys are just in their early to mid 20s. They're just entering the prime of their career. So to see them improving, month over month, year over year, it's not really that surprising because this is when they should be doing that improving. It's just been great to see. And I mean, anybody that's covered Ryan Lombard is going to be a fan of his. So to see him having such a great year and really feeling, the fruits of his labor showing through, it's great. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Andrew Burnett made that comment, him and Hornquist really being that the heartbeat and really not revolving around them, but they've been bringing it shift in, shift out, playing in and out of the lineup. And even at Eetu Luosterainen, who's been just fantastic this year. Great big body. Another one of those Finns that the Florida Panthers seem to love so much. But even his offensive side of the game really putting on display a little bit more than he did in past years. He's got 14 points on the year so far, and just really showing his offensive upside too, as well as his defensive upside. What's your take on him so far?
Yeah, I think this is a guy who, like last year, he showed up. He started out great, kind of fell off a little bit. And again, it's just kind of like with Lombard. It's just a matter of figuring out a way to bring the best parts of your game literally every shift. And with Eetu, like with this season, he's really seemed to have figured out that the Panthers just want you constantly moving your feet, constantly with the puck on your stick. And for a guy like Eetu, who's such a good 200-foot player, he's getting opportunities on the PK, just very solid in his own end. And that's really where it starts for the Panthers. As much of an offensive team as they are, so much of that driving offense starts in their own end. They're intercepting passes, they're getting sticks in passing lanes. And then as soon as that puck is turned over, they are gone. Whether it's, forwards, defenseman, doesn't matter. F1 is in there fast. There's usually a D that jumps up to create some kind of an odd man situation. And with, Eetu, with Lombard, with a lot of these guys, this is going on now a little more than a calendar year of really pushing and going. And they have an understanding of the systems that are in place. I mean, even though there was a coaching change, the beauty of that move for the Panthers was bringing in somebody who literally was running practices, was, a big part of the systems that were in place. So there was really no bump in the road in that regard. And I think now with the way that the team is playing and the way that they're able to roll four lines, regardless of who's in the lineup, because it's been so fluid with injuries and COVID, the team overall has been just really consistent. I think that's kind of a testament to guys really getting an understanding of what they're supposed to do in the ice, and particularly guys like Luosterainen, who as a center has that much wider of a role he has to play. And just him being so good on both ends of the ice, I think that's really helped push him over the top this year, and it's been great to see.
Yeah, no, for sure. And another interesting case, and before I get onto that, but like what you said, even when the coaching change occurred, just especially that bottom six and that fourth line, they didn't miss a beat whatsoever. And I even talked about it a little bit on a quick segment in the past, but when Ryan Lombard signed that contract, he's just gained the trust of the coaching staff. He's gained that trust with whenever they need him in and out. He's getting penalty kill time. They're putting him in high pressure moments. To me, even though they were without Patrick Hornquist, I thought Alexei Havoniemi did a wonderful job filling in there. I think that was probably the best game I've seen him play. And just they did a terrific job against the Carolina Hurricanes, suppressing those offensive weapons, but even forcing that strong Canes defense just to turn over pucks. You know how good that Canes defensive core can be. Jacob Slavin, Brett Pesce, Brady Shea. You know how dangerous they can be, just moving pucks up to those forwards, and you know how dangerous those forwards can be as well. But they just did a terrific job of shutting them down, and when that happens, it creates energy throughout the lineup, and hands the reins over to the big guys, and they just filled the back of the net, um, and they did the trick, and took care of business, and got the 2 points for us.
No, it was great. I think these are two teams that kind of have similar styles. You know, they like to push the pace. They like to hang on to the puck a lot. And that's, you know, just kind of getting back to what we were just saying about the Panthers. Like that's where, that's what kind of puts them at an advantage over most teams, is just that they have 4 lines and 3 pairings and they just roll. And you're really getting pressure from regardless of who's on the ice. And I mean, you know, we just like look at the game yesterday against Vancouver. You know, it starts off pretty even. Vancouver actually possesses the puck a lot. They get a lot of shots on goal. I think they outshot the Panthers last night, if I'm not mistaken. And yet it was a dominant win by the Panthers in terms of they're continuously pushing the pace. And then you've got these amazingly skilled players that can put the puck in the back of the net, that can make these awesome passing plays. It's pretty awesome what Bill Zito has been able to build, and that they've kept it going, you know, switching coaches from Q to Bruno. This team has overcome adversity. They've overcome a major injury to their best player that kept him out for a few weeks. COVID issues, just like every other team. But I mean, some handle it better than others, right? And this Panthers team has been built to handle it, and handling it quite well. Because right now, you know, they're, you know, what are they, number 2 in the NHL in points percentage behind Carolina or whatever it is. It's just unconventional for anybody that's been following this team for a long, long time. And, you know, as you said earlier, it looks like the trend, I wouldn't even see they're trending in the right direction anymore. I think the trend is now becoming a constant, because I mean, just looking at the way the roster is built and the way that guys are signed, there's no reason that this couldn't be sustainable for years to come. I mean, you talk about the guys that Zito brought in. You were just mentioning like the Lombards, Lustrainen wasn't a Zito. That was Dale Talon in the Trocheck trade. But with a Lombard, with a Gus Forsling, with a Anthony Duclair, these guys were brought in on short deals. Now they've all been extended. So it's, you know, it's a good system that they're running, because not only are you getting rewarded on the ice for playing well, but Zito's also backing it up by giving them security financially, locking them up to longer term deals and extensions. So just, you know, kind of going top to bottom, it's nice to see that they built something here in South Florida that I haven't seen maybe ever. You know, you go back to how it was in the 90s, but, you know, obviously financially and team makeup, that's quite different. But this is uncharted territory for the franchise, for the fans. And I'm, you know, like I just try to sit back and enjoy it a little bit, you know, just take a moment to kind of bask in how far they've come. And, you know, you don't want to put the cart to the head of the horse, right? You don't want to count your chickens before they hatch, but it's hard for me to find a way that this team is not going to be one of the better teams in the NHL for the foreseeable future. They're just built to last right now, and it's really cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like you said, Bill Zito doing a terrific job of picking up those pieces. Even another name, Radko Gudas, who's arguably played his best hockey of his career in Florida right now, just playing a simple game, doing his job. And that's exactly why Bill Zito brought him in. He knew what he was built to do. He knew what he was capable of, and he's really been going to work for us, especially this year so far. I think he's second in the NHL hits, no surprise, but just doing his job. And like he said when he was signed, he wants to make it difficult when teams come into their building to play, and they've done a good job of doing that so far in their own building. And just like terrific pieces. If it's Anthony Duclair, Ryan Lomberg, either of the Sams, like you said, and Carter Verhaeghe, just an absolute great pickup. And you're absolutely right. It's hard to see a future moving on here where the Cats aren't sitting at the top of the NHL.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Carter Verhaeghe, who we haven't even touched on yet. I mean, you want to talk about, a move that, personifies everything that Zito has put together on this team. The guy, Carter, you literally signed him to what was it, a 2-year, $2 million deal to start with out of Tampa when nobody really knew who he was. So yeah, he led the AHL in scoring, and he was a fourth line guy for Tampa when they won the cup. Yeah, now he's showed up in Florida, one of the best bargains in the NHL right now, maybe the best bargain, considering he's still on that 2-year, $2 million. The extension kicks in after this season, and he's been a top line guy, playing alongside Barkov, pushing that line. I mean, he's just so tenacious. Like that's one thing I love about watching Verhaeghe play is like his feet do not stop moving ever. He throws his body around just like a Brad Marchand type player, and he's got the skill to match. It's just how, Max, did Bill Zito not win GM of the year last year? What in the world did Lou Lamoriello do to earn? No knock on Lou, but I mean, for goodness sake, what Bill Zito did with this franchise, transforming it, coming on the job, like he wasn't even on the job for a month when he already got started. Just the first move he made, bringing in Patrick Hornquist and getting Mike Matheson and his contract off the books, and bringing in a guy as important on and off the ice, particularly in Patrick Hornquist, and then bringing in Radko Gudas, who, as you said, playing the best hockey of his career. It's just like I've been saying, his fingers on the pulse of this team after never even being here before last September. I just want to give him all the credit in the world because it's just such an amazing job that he's done.
Well, yeah, people always joke about when are we building the statue of Bill Zito outside the FLA Live Arena, but it's you joke about it, but it's so true. How did he not win that award? Lamoriello, sure, conference finals, but you know what? I think the Panthers were playing in the hardest division last year. Really, like, what did Marc Bergevin do to finish even higher than what Bill Zito did? They finished 16th in the league regular or at the end of the 56 games or whatever it was there. And any other division, they wouldn't have even made the playoffs. So I don't know how that came to be, but Bill Zito, he's such a smart man. I remember even talking about it with Katie in one of the previous episodes. He's just got a plan. He's so smart. He knows what he wants to do with this team. He knows who gels well with who, and it just passes the torch on to the coaching. If it was Q, if it was now Bruno, they seem to have a great connection. And Bill Zito he's got a plan in place. Not just for the time being, but moving forward. And it's great to see.
Yeah. And like earlier when you were asking about who's the favorite guys to interview on the team, like talking to Zito, one of the things I really appreciate about every time he speaks to us is he gives these seemingly, but he always comes across very honest, very thought out, very meticulous. Like he wants to give you as much information as he possibly can without crossing any of the line that's going to put anybody at a disadvantage or say more than he should. But it's just a very genuine guy. I mean, like one really cool thing that happened a few months back before the season started is things were calming down with COVID in a bit. Last year they were all everybody was in they're not like a bubble, but they were just going to the rink, going to the house, going to the hotel, going to the rink, going to the house. That's all they did. So Zito took some of us day-to-day media guys out to dinner before the season and just wanted to kind of connect, see how we could work with each other, kind of bite each other's ear a bit. And, it was just really interesting that he was so caring. He wanted to be involved. Like he wanted it to be like an open line of communication, which I thought that was really cool. Like I hadn't experienced something like that before from somebody in that kind of a role. And it just kind of shows the kind of guy he is. He's definitely an open-minded kind of progressive, just intelligent guy. He really understands the game. And, you mentioned earlier, he started as an agent. He's kind of had all these different perspectives from the job. He, when he was in Columbus, he did like every single front office role there was. He was managing cap, he was scouting, he did so many different things for them. And, now it's just kind of like all coming together in South Florida, and it's just great. I'm curious to see how it rides out because, right now they're already, they're really ascending at a rapid pace of the last couple of years. And, this is a team that every day they're trying to make themselves better. And with Zito, that he's going to do whatever he can. There's a trade deadline coming up. I would expect the Panthers are going to be a better team when the playoffs start than they are now. He's kind of raised the bar to that level. So yeah, I mean, good on him and good for Panther fans as now they get to, enjoy it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even kind of moving into what I want to talk about next, but you said he started off as an agent, very intelligent man. And not sure where he was before he was in Columbus, but I think he was with some NCAA team working there. Um, and just a very, very smart man. And even building that connection when they were this prior or the last draft that we had there, they out on the yacht club, and just building that connection and touching back to not making it feel like work, but still a work environment where okay, they're getting the job done, but let's have a little bit of fun with it, and we're in a good environment right now out on the yachts. And that's just great. And what I wanted to touch about next is how in the heck did Anton Lundell drop to 12th overall in that draft?
That is a really good question. I don't know if he necessarily dropped. I don't think there was anybody that was viewing him as like a high first round pick. I mean, what was he, 12th overall or whatever it was? It's pretty high, but I don't think anybody really expected Lundell to step in and be able to produce and play as consistently as he had at this level right off the bat. But like down here, they're calling him Baby Barkov because he's so similar in that he's so smart. His hockey IQ is off the charts. It's not just, obviously he's producing scoring wise, nicely. I think he's in the top 5 rookie scoring after, he's on a nice little hot streak right now. I think he's almost a point per game pace over his last like 15 games, which is great. It's great for anybody, let alone a 20-year-old rookie. But I think it's just another example of the great work that this Panthers brass has been doing, that they recognize the talent that Lundell had. They snagged him with their first round pick. And then, I mean, look what happened. He spent a year kind of playing with men over in Liga, which is, obviously it's what Barkov did. It's what a lot of Europeans, whether they're from Finland, whether, you got guys working their way into the KHL that are playing, extremely well in the NHL right now. Whether you're, it's like Shostur, like a Kirill Kaprizov or a Vasily Podkolzin. It's just it's kind of the new route now is like you got guys that even if they're super young, they've already played with men, they've got the taste of professional hockey. I mean, with Lundell, he was playing in Helsinki. Helsinki is like Toronto in terms of like a hockey mecca in Europe. It's one of the biggest hockey markets that there is over there. So he goes from that into that constant spotlight on a team that's got a lot of expectations in IFK. Then he comes here to the Panthers where it's a little bit more watered down, a fraction of the media coverage, and it's really given him an opportunity to just focus on his game, not worry so much about the extracurricular stuff. And I mean, look what's happened. This is a guy who's filling in, right off the bat, he was on the PK, getting those valuable minutes defensively, which just kind of shows the kind of player that he is. But he's also been moved up and down the lineup, whenever they needed a center, basically, whether it was on the fourth line, the second line. He's just filled in, and there's been no reason to pull him out. Like, you can't really point to a bad game that he's had. And again, just 20 years old. So just another one where Zito and his guys seem to have hit it out of the park. And the Panthers, I mean, it's great to think what this kid could become at just 20 years old. If he looks this good now, wait till he's 23, 24. And he's got all that experience under his belt. When you think about just a comparative to Barkov, he started out as a teenage rookie. Barkov is still just 26 now. Think about it, he's been in the league forever. It feels like, just like with Aaron Ekblad and Jonathan Huberdeau, these guys are still in their mid 20s. They're still got another 10 plus years of their careers to go, God willing. And the best is still yet to come. So with Lundell, it's crazy to think how good this kid might be, considering how not just good skill wise he is right now, but it's just the consistency that kind of blows me away. I mentioned it before, but it's so hard for these guys to perform at their highest level, game in and game out, shift in and shift out. That's why the best guys are the best guys. So to see a 20-year-old step into the NHL and be that consistent, it's really impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. Just how smart he is with the puck, his decisions with the puck, but away from the puck as well. A prime example, Barkov's beautiful goal against the Dallas Stars on the PK there, shorthanded. Um, a great move by Barkov. Obviously, a highlight reel goal, but what people didn't realize was the great play, great defensive play by Anton Lundell before that to force that play to get it to Aaron Ekblad's stick, and then Aaron Ekblad moves it up to Barkov, who just put on an absolute clinic on the offensive side of things. But it just shows how smart he is at 20 years old, and with a ton of offensive upside as well. Really playing that 200-foot game, and that seems to be the case. Like, we've got three great Finnish centermen that big bodies. I think he's at like 6'1", 190 area or something like that. But big bodies. Barkov, huge. Louis Durannon right up there too. And just Lundell playing such a smart game. He's got a great shot. They've got him trying him out on PK or power play 2 now. It looks like, and he's done a great job there, passing, being able to move the puck and just getting the look in those different situations, and playing up and down the lineup once again. One of those players, super versatile. Even when Bennett was out there with his 3-game suspension, he was playing a little bit on the second line, and when the big guys were down, COVID or injured, he was doing his job.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the cool thing, right? I mean, you had Bennett go on that suspension for 3 games. Suddenly you're without your number 2 centerman. No big deal. You got this 20-year-old rookie that you can pop up there and put in between Jonathan Huberdeau and Anthony Duclair, and the line isn't going to skip a beat. And then what happens when Bennett comes back? Oh, you just put him back down on the third line between, Frank Vetrano, who's been in and out of the lineup, who, he was a healthy scratch a couple weeks ago before the COVID issues hit. Maxime Mammon, who he's starting to re-solidify his career. And all Lundell does is take that line, elevate it. They had that ridiculous goal where Lundell made the no-look behind the back pass to Maxime Mammon, who then one time backhanded a shot that went top cheese. I mean, the skill level on a third line of guys that maybe, half the fans in the league may not even have heard of. And that's, getting away from the talent and the big names in the top 6 is the Barkov, Verhaeghe, Duclair, Bennett, Huberdeau. It's like an embarrassment of riches, right?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely unreal. That pass, I've watched it about 10 times now, and every time it just gets better and better. Watching him, even going into that, I rewinded it a little bit, even before he was pinned up against the boards there, and just how he executed that. He won the battle, stripped the puck, got into that battle, got on the right side of the puck, and then continued to look to see who's coming. Maxime Mammon, there he was, who I want to kind of touch on a little bit after this, and just proceeded to make a beautiful pass between the legs, and Maxime Mammon backhand one-timer short side over Thatcher Demko, who's no pushover as a goaltender. But yeah, Maxime Mammon, an interesting case. He was back over in the KHL there for a bit. Bill Cito signed him as a restricted free agent. Spent the beginning of the season down in Charlotte in American Hockey League, but over his last couple of games or so, at the start, he was so-so. He was just kind of starting to get in there a little bit, but now more so, especially when he was playing on Barkov's wing there. It's a privilege when anyone gets to play beside Barkov, but he really was going to work. What's your take on him so far?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a similar story with Mammon, where you got a young guy who's really starting to come into his own and figure things out. I think the exposure and the experience he got when he went over to the KHL was really valuable to him, because it wasn't just going over there and getting minutes or whatever. He went over there and he was playing for one of the best teams, one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the KHL in CSKA. And all he did was help them go on a playoff run 2 years ago, takes them all the way to the finals up against Bob Hartley's avant-garde squad, and he scores the winning overtime goal to clinch the cup for CSKA. So here's Maxime Mammon suddenly in the spotlight, getting big minutes, producing, being relied on. Now, fast forward to Bill Zito, come back over here. We got a spot for you if you can earn it. And then he comes over, and like you said, he starts in the AHL. Probably not the way he envisioned it. Did he get it? Did it get him down? No. Did it stunt his progress? No. He got a shot. He came up to the Panthers. He was put in the lineup, and as you said, got minutes with Barkov. The consistency is there. The hustle is there, and you're seeing the confidence grow. Like he had a couple of games ago, he had this coast to coast rush where he picked it up in his own end, dangled guys in the neutral zone, got a shot on the. I'm trying to remember which game it was. I'm pretty sure it was
the Flames.
The Cal.
Yeah.
So it's just like one of the things that I always look for with the young guys is you can really see it when their confidence is growing, because you can see them hanging onto the puck a little bit more. You can see them trying the kind of moves that, like any hockey player knows how to make moves and the toe drag and dangle because they've been doing it their whole career. If you get to the NHL, it's a bit harder to stand out like that. But when you see them getting confident enough to try these things again, which we're seeing now from Mammon, I think it just bodes well for him mentally and physically. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I finished these thoughts up with kind of similar summaries, but like with Mammon, being that he's so big and so skilled, really the sky's the limit. I'm curious to just how far he can push it at this point, because obviously everybody's got a ceiling. But with a guy like him, considering, he was here, he went over to the K, he came back, he's working his way up. How high does his ceiling go? I'm really anxious to see how it plays out for him. But I mean, good for him, because thanks to him kind of becoming an every game player now, the Panthers are basically 5 lines deep when you think about it. They can roll out 5 lines at any point, because you got the last game, who were the healthy scratches? It was Thornton. It was Owen Tippett was out of lineup again.
Yeah.
So, and then you've got
Noah Chari
on the COVID list. What's that?
Noah
Chari. He'll be back eventually. Hopefully he'll be back sometime in maybe March or so after the trade deadline and the holiday break, the Olympic break, or whatever you want to call it now, the February break. But yeah, the Panthers are just ridiculously deep. And when you got guys like Mammon stepping in and playing as well as they have, or Ryan Lombard stepping in and becoming an every game player, it obviously makes it that much harder for the guys in the bottom of the lineup to get out there. But for the team, it's that much better because of all the competition internally just to get out there. Guys pushing each other, and you're seeing the results now because, I mean, look at what's happening with these guys.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, another guy that's no surprise to the league on how well he's doing, but Mr. Jonathan Huberdeau, just 4th in the league for points right now, trailing Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Alex Ovechkin. That's no chump change at the top there that he's chasing behind. What's your take on Hubie so far?
Whew, man, I mean,
where to start?
Yeah, right. I mean, he's, it's nice to see him getting the kind of recognition, and, entering the Hart Trophy talk is really cool for Hubie. Yeah, because look, this is a team that, in recent years, the guy who would get most of the attention was Barkov, and Barkov was always considered as, one of the more underrated players in the league because nobody was really talking about him. And Huberdeau was kind of in Barkov's shadow a little bit. And now you're seeing Huberdeau step into his own. One of the things that he talked about that really helped his game round out is he put in a lot of work in the gym. He wanted to bulk himself up. I mean, if you go back and you look at footage of him, even from recent years past, he was, on the skinnier side. He obviously had, it's all the skill in the world, but this is a guy who he liked to be physical and mix it up, but he didn't really have the physique necessarily to back it up on a regular basis. That's changed now. This guy looks like he's carved out of a mountain now. He put in all this work. He's bigger. He's bulkier. You can see him muscling guys off the puck. It's just added another dimension to his already spectacular game. And when you add to that the playmaking that he does because of his amazing hockey IQ, his vision, I would love to see one of those like ESPN digital dives or whatever they do about different analytics or whatever. I just love to see the vision that Huberdeau, it just seems like his peripheral vision is like a goalie where he sees everything. And I mean, you've seen some of the spinorama passes that he's made, or some of the ways that he finds a player. It's just all seems to be coming together for him.
That incredible pass in overtime to Anthony Duclair against Carolina was just incredible,
right?
And the take from Duke as well was pretty impressive.
That was, I don't think the puck was on the ice when he somehow went backhand forehand
No.
without the puck. It was gorgeous. And I mean, just watching the goalie, it was at Alex Lyon. Like, I think when the puck crossed the goal line, Lyon wasn't even in the crease anymore. He had
No.
gone so far to his left, and Duke took the puck back to the right away. Such a cool play, Matt. And again, this is, you've got how many guys in your forward ranks that can make these plays? Some teams are lucky if they have, one or two guys that are that good. The Panthers have one or two lines that are that good.
Yeah,
And that doesn't include the Mammons and the Lundells and the next wave.
Yeah, and so impressive. And even Lomberg, I think he's had 2 or 3 now where he's just batted a couple out of the air into the net. Like, it's just incredible.
Yeah. I mean, just thinking about last night's game, there was a couple really gorgeous deflections. Like Sam Reinhart had a great one. I think it was on the first goal of the game. It's just so much skill. And, I just keep kind of going back to like, wow, like this is the Florida friggin' Panthers, and they are the class of the league right now. And it's no fluke. It's no crazy streak. This is consistent, solid, winning hockey. It's just cool. Like you hear it coming out of me, but like, this is somebody who grew up in South Florida. My hockey roots are Panthers roots because my love for hockey started when the Panthers started, and to see it coming together the way it is now, it's just so cool to see.
Yeah, and you talked about it before, just to sit back and watch it all unfold and being able to enjoy how good they really are at the time right now, when moving forward, how good they're going to be. It's just so nice to be able to sit back and see after all the years of not being so strong. And yeah, it's great as a fan standpoint, and someone that wants to see them do so well, and someone that has so much passion for them. It's incredible to see. I know you feel the exact same way. So it's awesome though.
Yes, sir. We'll see what it leads to now. Like, it's, this is the first plateau, but next step up. All right, let's win a playoff series for the first time since 1996. Let's see how deep this train can take it. How deep of a run they can go on. That's really where the bar is at now. We'll see how it plays out, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And touching on one last guy, and one guy that's really held down the fort for quite some time. Not so strong his first year or so in Florida, but Mr. Sergei Bobrovsky. And you said you were a goalie yourself, so what's your take on Sergei Bobrovsky so far this season?
Oof, man, it started out great. It's kind of plateaued a bit of late. It's tough. I think that's kind of could be the Achilles heel of the Panthers, to be honest. Just because, I mean, you've heard me talk about consistency with so many of these guys and with the team as a whole. And that's one area where there has not been consistency, at least in a positive light with Bobrovsky. We got excited when he started the year off as strong as he did. And I mean, he still has an excellent record, obviously. His goals against and his save percentage are, when compared to his first 2 years, they're good, but they're not at the level that I think they were hoping to get when they signed him. And yeah, I mean, that's really going to be the key to how far this team can go. Because once the playoffs roll around, I mean, any hockey player knows things tighten up, and you're not seeing the high scoring shootout type games that you get in the regular season. Everything, teams clamp down. Usually goaltenders are playing, on top of their game in addition to, just hard-nosed playoff hockey. So that's really going to be the test. And it's going to come down to how far Bob can carry this team once the playoffs roll around. I think there was a thought process ahead of the season that if Bob faltered, Spencer Knight was going to just be able to step right in and, carry the load. That has not happened. Knight has struggled as well. And look, he's 20 years old. You would expect there to be some bumps in the road there. But it's going to be an interesting situation to see how it plays out with Bob. He's got the ability, and I mean, look, it's not like you can fault him. He works his ass off. Nobody works harder than Sergei Bobrovsky. But for whatever reason, it's just, he has a hard time putting it together. The frustration comes in, Max, when it's these cheap, frilly little goals that trickle through him or that go under his pads. It's stuff that should get stopped that doesn't. And I think that's kind of the demoralizing thing. Fortunately for the Panthers, they score like crazy, so they're able to mask it a bit. But scoring comes at a much higher premium once the playoffs roll around. So hopefully Bob will have tightened up at that point, but that's going to be the big question once the playoffs get here.
Yeah, and you know what? He is very capable of it. We've seen it before from him, but it's when he's going to do it, and the consistency part you talked about, and that's what separates the Carey Prices and the Andre Vasilevskis, because Vasi stole 3 or 4 games every series last playoff, and especially against the Cats, he really buckled down and just stole games, and just some things that would have been just in the back of the net on not any other goalie, but a lot of the other goalies, and that's kind of what just separates the Vassies and the Prices. And we know Bob's capable of it. We've seen him steal some games before, but it's when he wants to do it and when he's going to do it's the case.
Yeah, I mean, look, goaltenders are, we're a strange breed, right? There's definitely no playbook on how to handle a goaltender, and a lot of it's mental. When Bob was having a good start to his season, a lot of us were saying, oh, well, that you have a kid and things change. And yeah, I mean, I can speak for personal experience. Certainly when I had a kid, I felt like things got turned up a notch. Just, everywhere you want to just be that much better. So, that may have something to do with it. But, at the end of the day, it's a little frustrating because all that ability is there. You just got to be able to put it all together, and nobody can do that other than the person, other than Bob. So we just have to hope that that's what happens.
Yeah, and you know what? When he is there, he can be one of the best goalies in the world. It's just when he is there, when all the pieces are together. You said it yourself. When all the pieces are there, he is arguably one of the best goalies in the world. So it'll be interesting to see moving forward. Lots of hockey to be played for the rest of the season, and going to be hopefully we have a nice little road. We got a big road trip coming up. I was talking about that earlier with when I had Jess on, but should be interesting to see. We test the teams out west we haven't seen in quite some time, and see how the boys hold up down there.
Yeah, fingers crossed that the Western Canadian trip goes off, as planned. Obviously it's been a little wishy-washy with the COVID issues and with the restrictions up in Canada, up in your neck of the woods. But as of right now, everything's on set to be played as scheduled. So these are the things that I get excited for. I want to see this team get tested. I was excited to see them get tested in Carolina. Now I want to see them go out, as far as you could get from South Florida, go out to Western Canada where it's freezing right now. Tough buildings to play in, regardless of how the teams are doing. Vancouver has been great. Calgary is always tough at home. I have no idea what's going on with Edmonton right now, but I don't think anybody does. It'll be a fun test for sure. So I'm excited to see it play out, because that's what the rest of the season is going to be all about. Getting this team as tested as they can for the ultimate test, and that's when the playoffs start. Yeah,
no, for sure. And Daryl Sutter said it when his team matched up against the Panthers last week, and they call this a different type of team. That's a different level of team, but even the Panthers know that they can buckle down even more than what they're doing and play even better hockey than what they're doing. And I think they're well aware of that as well. It's just like you said, when that happens, and the consistency part plays a huge factor, and when and who wants to show up. They've done a pretty good job so far this season, but maybe just like obviously top the NHL, but it'll be cool to see those tests like we were talking about, Carolina and Tampa, and now going out west to see teams we haven't seen in over a year and a half. So it'll be interesting.
Yes, sir.
Anyways, I think that wraps up everything we had planned here, but I thank you very much for coming on kind of short notice again and talking over some Panthers hockey with me.
No, man, my pleasure. Always happy to talk hockey. I'm glad you reached out, and nothing but the best moving forward. I'll keep an eye on the podcast, but if you ever need anything, just feel free to reach out, brother. That's how it works.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it greatly.
No problem, man. Be well.
Awesome. Thanks, David.
All right, Max. Take care, buddy. Like I said, if you ever need anything, just reach out, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, bud. Hit me up. Tag me on Twitter when you post it so I can retweet it for you, okay?
Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks, man.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Have a good one. So that right there will conclude our midpoint season review of the Florida Panthers. It was really fun talking and evaluating the different players and how the team has done so far as a whole. We'd like to give one more big thanks to David for joining us and talking all things Panthers hockey, and hopefully have him on in the future because we do love to talk about Panthers hockey, and that's what this is all about. Just indulging in that the wonderful team that we have down there in South Florida and straight out of Sunrise. But yeah, lots more to come. Like I said, 2 to 3 weeks we'll be posting, and yeah, lots more to come for sure. That trade deadline is approaching very quickly, quicker than most think, and possibly, definitely an episode of who the Panthers could possibly be targeting and what spots they need to fill to what looks like a really go for it year for the Florida Panthers in quite some time. So lots more to come. And in the meantime, let's go Cats.